Right now, I want to go ahead and bring on a very courageous woman, Miss Juanita Broaddrick. Miss Broaddrick, how are you doing?
Fine. How are you?
Doing good. I wanted to tell you, uh, my grandmother's name was actually Juanita.
Oh, is that right? That's
Yes, ma'am.
cool.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure everything's been crazy with Donald Trump mentioning everything he's brought up.
Yes, it's difficult, but I think I'm game.
Okay, I want to go ahead and just kind of give you the floor and let you start and open up and to be free to say whatever you want to say and kind of.
Oh goodness, no! Ask me something.
Okay, okay. For those who aren't familiar, your story took place in 1978 when Bill Clinton was Attorney General, and then was it about 2 weeks later you had your encounter with Hillary?
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks later. I'm not for sure of the exact date.
Was that the only encounter that you ever had with either Bill or Hillary?
No, it's not. It's the only encounter, the only time I ever met Hillary Clinton, but not the only encounter with Bill Clinton.
Because you had worked with him prior to that, correct?
Well, I hadn't actually worked with him. I was working in his campaign for governor at the time that he visited my nursing home, and was just really, really excited about his campaign. And when he visited my nursing home, he had made the comment that he would like for my nurses and I, when we come down to Little Rock, to come to his headquarters and pick up some special pens and items that in his campaign that he gave to certain workers, which is what got us to Little Rock. We were down there for a nursing home meeting. And then the only other time, now I may have seen him in passing, but I would avoid him, like when he would speak at our nursing home conventions. When he was governor, I would see him from a distance, but I never spoke to him. But the only other time that I spoke to him was in 1991 when I was at another nursing home meeting in Little Rock, and I was called out of the meeting by someone, said I was needed out in the hallway. And I went out, and my nurses followed me because they were concerned it was an emergency from home. And the man pointed me down around the corner, and when I went down there, Bill Clinton stood there. And just as I went around the corner, there he was. And it was very shocking to me. And he came over to me and started apologizing profusely for what he had done to me back in 1978, and was just saying all these things, and I was just flabbergasted. And he kept saying, I'm a changed man, and I have a family, and I'm just not that person that I used to be. And I looked at him straight in the eyes, and I told him to go to hell, and I walked off. And as I walked off, I started crying, and my nurses came over to me, and it was just an upsetting situation for him to apologize to me like that. But you know, one thing it did, for all those years I had blamed myself for letting him come to my room, and what he did to me that day was a favor. He took the blame off of me and put it squarely where it should be.
You're a strong, courageous woman to have carried this with you all of these years. What did you think? Like, how did you first feel when? I guess you were probably watching TV like the rest of us, and Donald Trump, drops the word rape, and you knew he was talking about you.
I know it, and it was overwhelming. It was, to say the least, to have someone in that position actually verify, to the people, yes, this happened. This was something that happened to this lady. And I was very appreciative to him. I could not say the word rape for years. It's just been in the last year or so, and of course on the Dateline interview that I said the word. but it's hard to say. It's hard to say the R word. I usually say sexual assault. But rape is what happened. Rape is the correct terminology. So I can say that now.
What was your reaction when Trump tweeted out the video with your voice in it?
Well, I had no idea that was coming out. You know, I was a little disappointed that I hadn't had some kind of a heads up from it, you know, that it was coming, that it just didn't hit me like it did. And what it did have was the most painful part of my Dateline interview, you know, the part that if I should watch now, I'd probably start crying. And that was painful, but I guess I just better get ready for it.
Do you expect to get a lot coming your way from this moment on?
Yeah, I really don't know. You know, it's been very hectic and busy since that political ad came out. And like I said, I was disappointed that I didn't know about it in advance. But I've never talked to any of Trump's people. You know, I have had no communication with them, even though I'm, you know, plan on supporting him because I'm against Hillary. I really have no political contact with them.
So when you originally came out in 1999 and did the interview with NBC, like, what was it that finally drove you and said, okay, enough is enough, I have to tell my story?
I guess it was my son. My son's an attorney, and he had met with Lisa Myers to begin with on my behalf to tell her that, you know, he had talked with me, but I really didn't want to do it. And then finally I decided, you know, this is ridiculous. This is going to plague me all of my life if I don't come clean and tell what happened to me. And so I just sort of gathered up my bootstraps and met with her.
Now, did you ever go to the authorities at any point? And
no, I was too frightened.
Never. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the fear and the help.
Well, you know, my business depended on the state of Arkansas. You know, our rates, everything to do with the business depended on cooperation from the state of Arkansas, which he was the head of.
How did you feel when the different women were coming out through the years? I guess the first one was Jennifer Flowers.
Yeah, I felt so relieved. I thought, oh my God, this is the most wonderful thing. Now I won't ever have to come forward because she'll put the nails in his coffin. And it just didn't happen. I was so disappointed. And then when Paula Jones came out and her investigators came up to my door to ask me what had happened, and I told them I didn't want to talk about it, I still was shying away from it, you know, when that happened, and was still denying it to myself and to others who asked. And even in the first affidavit, I denied it because I just didn't want to get involved. I was frightened. I was frightened of what anybody might do to me. I was frightened of what people would say about me. And I just finally did it.
Did you ever feel when different women came out like, okay, now I can do it, now I can do it?
Yes. And I would say it, of course, and that's when they all started to come out, then I could say, you know, gosh, this is great. If they'll come out and tell their story, then maybe I can too. And I think that's probably what made me eventually come out.
What do you think about, like, I've seen it on ABC and CBS, and Andrea Mitchell did something the other day.
Oh my God.
When they say old and discredited, that's the words that they use.
Discredited, yes. That word has never been used against me. And it's just outrageous for Andrea Mitchell to spew such a lie. You know, nothing has changed from the detailed investigation that NBC did into my story in '99 before airing it. And if NBC now thinks that my experience has been discredited, why did she even call me? Why did she even pick up the phone and ask me for an interview when she just could have gotten on her website or on NBC and write her own story explaining how I was discredited?
And
it didn't make sense.
I've never heard them give any reason for it to be discredited. It's almost like they're just reciting a line that was given to them.
Right.
Just say this, because that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, well, when Andrea Mitchell called me, that was the day that I sent out that tweet that, I really didn't know what I was doing. I'd not had much experience at all on Twitter. And she was one of the probably 50 reporters that called me and started asking me about the incident with Hillary. And all through her asking questions and me trying to explain, she was saying, well, how do you know this? How do you know that? What makes you think that? She was very intimidating. And I just told her like it was. And then I think she reluctantly hung up and said, well, we're going to air this on the 5:30 or 6 o'clock news, whatever. She originally wanted me to go to the NBC affiliate in Fort Smith for a sit-down, where she could talk to me on, a remote camera or whatever. And I told her, no, I wouldn't do that. But she called back about 10, 15, 20 minutes later and said, we've decided not to air my interview with you, because there's nothing new. And I just hung up the phone.
Have you gotten any threats or anything through the years, or audits? You were audited.
I was audited shortly after the Dateline. Probably within a few months. Have you never been audited before? No, never been audited.
Have you been
audited? And what was
since?
unique was they didn't audit me. They audited my nursing home, which had never been audited. And the reason that they could do that was because I was a subchapter S corporation, which goes right back where they could get into the corporate owner's income tax.
Has anybody has they ever come to you to buy you out to keep you quiet or anything?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever been approached? Has anybody offered you money to keep quiet or anything?
No, never.
Clintons ever approach you with anything?
No. I've never been approached by the Clintons.
Other
than when Hillary threatened me and when Bill apologized to me. And the very next week after he apologized is when he announced he was running for president.
Did you think that he was at all sincere when he ran up to you, or was he just being full of himself?
I did. And my nurses and I talked about that all the way home from Little Rock. And we kept saying, is he really sorry? Does he really mean, is he really wanting your forgiveness? And we actually thought it might be possible until we heard in a couple of days that he was had thrown his hat in the ring for president.
And then it kind of made sense to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was just covering his bases.
So, what do you think when I'm going to read a Hillary Clinton tweet to you. I know you know which one's coming. How do you feel when you hear the words, every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be heard, believed, and supported?
Well, I tweeted what I thought. I said, Hillary's disgusting remarks on rape. Shame on you, Hillary. She certainly didn't want us to come forward again.
How many women do you know of personally? And have there been any other women reach out to you as kind of a support?
No, but I had a woman after the Dateline interview. I was coming out of Walmart in Van Buren, and she followed me to my car, a very nice-looking, pretty woman, maybe 5 or 10 years younger than me, and told me of a horrific experience that she had had with Bill Clinton. And I wished I'd gotten her name at the time, but I didn't. I mean, just a very nice-looking lady. And she just said, "I saw your interview, and I just wanted you to know that what happened to me." And she was at at the Little Rock Convention Center for some type of a function, and Bill and Hillary were there, and she and her husband knew the Clintons, and she said she went outside to the women's restroom, and he followed her and went inside the women's restroom and started pawing and kissing her and trying to push her against the wall. And she said it frightened her to death, and she just thought she was never going to get away from him.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year would that have been, do you think, that would have happened to her?
Probably 2000, 2001, somewhere around there.
Why do you think that more women hadn't come forward? Do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if there's some women that have been intimidated, or they just don't want to go through all the misery that I'm going through now. You know, there was even a woman that contacted Kathleen Willie. She's living in England, and she had a horrific story, but her husband was very against her coming forward and cut off all, correspondence with Kathleen. But she originally told her the whole story. It was awful.
I think y'all are incredibly brave. I mean, are there moments, I'm sure there are, where you regret coming out and telling your story and going public with it, or you still feel like you're glad you did it?
It's just what I have to do. It's, I'll go through anything that I need to go through to keep Hillary Clinton out of office. If I can help in some small way, I'll go through it. I will go through whatever I need to go through.
Do you think you hear all these stories, do you think their marriage is just like a business arrangement?
Oh, I don't think they have a marriage. Lord, no. I think it's a business arrangement. I don't think it's any kind of marriage.
That's the stories you always hear coming out of Arkansas, because when you hear people in Arkansas talk, they always have a different perspective on the Clintons, it seems.
Yeah, they're not. They're just business partners, and that's all they are. He spends too much time philandering around the globe with like an Epstein's Island and all of those things that you hear. They don't have a marriage.
So the lamp story, what was it? She went to the lamp after Monica Lewinsky or something?
Yeah, that's what she says.
That's what she says. What do you think what it was, that he was about to screw everything up for her?
Oh, I think she knew. I really think she knew about Monica Lewinsky and probably told him he better quit. I think she knew about Jennifer Flowers and was upset but couldn't control him. I think if she didn't know as it was happening, she knew shortly thereafter. She had him watched, I'm sure.
Oh, she probably knew everything that he did.
Right.
Was she, they say that, she was, I guess, the quote-unquote brains or the driving force behind what they were. Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Because I always kind of got the impression that he just kind of ran around and did what he wanted, and she ran behind him cleaning up his mess.
Well, you're right. I do think that. I really do think that. I think she's just it was so important to her to have power, whether it was his power or power through him or whatever. I just think it was so important to her. And I think it is now. Can you imagine that man back in the White House?
Oh, no.
Did you see the piece from Ed Klein in his newsletter?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I did or not.
Yeah, it talks about how he had, here's Bill Clinton's conversation about how he did not want to go back to the White House and be watched and all of this. Anyway, I tweeted it out either today or yesterday.
Well, I'll make sure to go back and check that
Yeah,
out for sure.
it's disgusting what he's supposed to have said.
Do you
know, and I trust Ed Klein. You know, he's certainly not a fan of Clinton's, but I think he's a very legitimate source.
Do you think Bill, like with all this Bill Cosby stuff going on, do you think that'll ever happen with Bill? That label of rapist will get stuck on him?
Okay, to say it again. I didn't quite understand.
Do you think with all the Bill Cosby stuff going on, do you think that'll ever catch up with Bill Clinton? Do you think the label?
I don't know. He's so much more powerful than Bill Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't. I think he has. I think if the Clinton Foundation starts to erode like everybody thinks it will, I think it will tie him to so much else. And if these trips on the Lolita plane and Epstein's Island are proven to be true, he's in deep trouble.
Now, what do you think about the Epstein? I know Virginia Roberts was a young lady that said she saw him there on the island.
Yeah, I believe it. Oh, I believe it. I believe he was there to have his way with all of the young ladies.
So you think he was that depraved?
Oh, yes.
The story...
Oh, yeah, they said the logs were, 27 trips?
That's what I heard, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. How could he... You know, if he had gone one time and said, uh-oh, I better not be caught here, and never gone again, then that would be different. But he went 27 times.
I definitely get the feeling that he was involved with more than we'll probably ever know about.
Oh,
yeah.
My God. I know. I just wish more women would come forward.
What do you think about this is getting brought up again? Trump brought this up, Vince Foster, and that whole situation from your perspective in Arkansas.
Well, I've always thought that they had something to do with it, you know, and that's the feeling in Arkansas from anybody that I've talked to, that they somehow were responsible for Vince Foster's death. You know, I still believe that.
Now, what about I've heard stories of, you know, that goes on, the list goes on and on, so many people around them.
Oh, I know. And I've not read it all. I've just heard, you know, from and read some, but it's frightening. You know, that's why nobody wants to come forward. They don't want to end up in the obituary.
Right. I wonder why they never pursued or came after you.
I'm sorry?
I wonder why that Hillary never came after you other than y'all's one encounter.
I don't know.
I guess that's a blessing. I would say,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that when I met her that one time, that was enough for me. My goodness.
For those, if you don't mind, real quick, tell everybody your one encounter when you met her. The way you tell. Just.
You want me to go over that again?
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, for everybody, just.
Yeah, sure. I was still feeling that at that time, it was only about 2 or 3 weeks after the assault took place. For so long, I blamed myself for letting him come to my room. That's what women thought back then. If you allowed yourself to be alone with a man in your room, you know, you just better bear the consequences. But he was the Attorney General, and he played this so smart. You know, he had said in the beginning, I would want you, I want to meet you in the coffee shop. But anyway, I still should never have let that man, being the Attorney General, come to my room. I just shouldn't have done it. So I was still in this same train of thought. I had checks that people had written for his gubernatorial campaign, and I had lists of names of those that were still yet to contribute. And so I was going up to the Criswells to drop this off and then leave. I got there before it started. And before I could get away, I had gone up there with 2 friends, and we were getting ready to leave. And before I could leave, Chuck Watts comes over to me. He was a local pharmacist, and he had driven them from Fort Smith from the airport to the Criswell's home. And he came over to me and he said, the topic of the whole conversation all the way from the airport was about you. And I thought, well, good gosh, what? And it made me very nervous. Well, then I see her coming through and him, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, coming through the kitchen area. And as soon as they do, a lady in there is pointing toward me, and then she starts directly for me, and he goes the other direction. She comes straight over to me and starts profusely thanking me for all that I was doing in the campaign to help elect Bill. And then I just started to turn and walk away. I just wanted to get out of there. And she took hold of my arm with one hand and my hand with her other hand, and she pulled me close to her, and she said, do you understand everything you do? And it just sent chills up my spine. I took my hand from hers, and I glared back at her, and I told my friends, let's go.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it cut out for a second.
Yeah. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. So, because of a 30-minute window in your life in 1978, like, how much do you, like, what did that take from you? Like, what did Bill Clinton, how did that, like, hold you down or weigh you down, should I say, for the rest of your life? And you had to carry that with you. What do you think that cost you?
Oh, he essentially for years ruined my life. I'm not going to let him do that anymore. You know, I've taken my life back. And especially since 91, since he apologized to me. Because that really took a weight off of my mind and my heart and everything, because I thought, it's true. He's responsible for this. I'm not responsible for allowing the Attorney General of Arkansas to come to my room to talk about nursing home matters. I'm not responsible anymore. And that's the frame of mind I am in today.
No, and you never were, and I think you're remarkable and extremely brave for coming out and speaking out.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. If you had one message for the Clintons, what would it be?
Oh goodness, I have no idea, except shame on them for all that they've done to hurt women, and especially the women that he abused, and shame on her for thinking that she is eligible at all to be president of the United States.
How far do you think she has gone through trying to destroy different women from the stories that you've heard?
How far what?
Has she gone to destroy women as much as she goes on about how she loves women and, you know, she's woman's rights, but she has personally gone out of her way to destroy?
Oh, I think she has gone out of her way. I mean, just like George Stephanopoulos said, that she actually had a war room. It was called the Bimbo Eruption War Room, where she would send out investigators to try to find anything that they could on these women. And I'm sure she tried to find what she could on me, but there was nothing to find.
Oh, I heard you say in your interview yesterday with Sean Hannity that you were followed for a time.
Yes, for a long time, and that was just prior to the Dateline interview. There was just different cars that would follow me around. They would wait on the highway, and they would follow me to my nursing home, and then they would go on, and then I would see the same car follow me home. They would never try to come to my home, because I have a gate anyway, a security gate. And but it was unnerving.
That would be really scary, but luckily, so nobody ever approached you though, or
No. Once when I was in snow skiing in Colorado, someone broke into my home. There was no evidence of anybody breaking into my home, but when we got home from Colorado, my cat was outside, and we knew that we'd left him inside. And the only thing that was missing from my home, strangely, was that, you remember when we had the small cassettes on our answering units?
Yes, ma'am.
That was the only thing gone from my house.
Wow.
And why would anybody want that?
Wow. Really?
Yeah, that was the only thing.
Do you think...
Didn't know that for a day or two. We got to thinking, my goodness, did we leave this cat out? And I said to my husband at that time, I said, I made sure he was asleep in on the couch when we left. My cat and we were only gone for like 4 days, so he was fine with his litter box and the food that I'd left out for him. We'd done that before for 3 or 4 days. So there was no reason for him to be out, but I kept thinking, well, somehow I made a mistake, until I found out a day or two later that the cassette was missing off of my answering machine. Isn't that the weirdest thing?
That's creepy. Do you think the cat got out accidentally, or do you think it was done to let you know somebody had been in there?
I don't know. I actually do not know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I wonder what was on that.
Don't remember. I had so many calls from Lisa Myers, and I'd had calls from other people about encouraging me to do the interview and things like that. And I don't remember.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And you said you had gotten back from a trip?
Yeah, snow skiing.
So I wonder if somebody had called and said something while you were gone. Anything's possible.
I never even thought about that.
Anything's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Has your feelings, like, overall with politicians and government, I guess, changed? Knowing that
my what?
Your overall feelings of, like, politicians, I guess, in general, in government, knowing that people like the Clintons are in power.
Yeah, my overall impression of politicians is not good.
I tell you what, I think if you have any closing statements or anything you would like to add or mention, please feel free.
No, not really. I can usually answer questions pretty easily, but as far as just doing a monologue, no, I can't.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. And I want to let it be known that you're not in any way doing this for money or coming on, like, you want to get this story out and...
No, I've never taken a penny. I've never written a book. I wouldn't even know how to write a book. I have no desire for monetary gain from this.
Well, thank you again, ma'am, for taking the time with us tonight.
Well, I appreciate your interest. Let's do something to defeat Hillary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wow. So that was just an incredible conversation we had with Miss Juanita Broaddrick, who is a self-identified rape survivor of Bill Clinton.